Okay. All right. Snake Sabers, welcome to the building. Thank you for the host. Much appreciated. Okay, so I feel pretty giddy because my dumbass. Well, I know that's some very weird phrasing that I'm putting here. For this ninth episode here of Film Student School. And before I proceed, a couple of housekeeping things that I kind of want to get out of the way. Well, first of all, R.I.P. to Joel Schumacher, one of the losses we encountered this past week in the film industry. Most of you will know Joel Schumacher as being the man who put nipples on Batman. Or at least on his costume. So he directed Batman Forever and, of course, the unfortunate disaster that was Batman and Robin. It's funny because I think over the years, I think a lot of people warmed up to Batman Forever a bit more. But Batman and Robin is the one that's just unabashedly like, nah, there's no way to come back from this, fam. And so he made those two films. The funny thing is that he's made... people often... Those movies were such travesties to so many people that they often forget that Joel Schumacher was capable of making really good movies. Actually, a lot of people really enjoy Lost Boys, and he made that. He made a handful of other films, some other thrillers. Let me actually pull up the IMDb page here, just so that we can kind of pay a little bit of a tribute to Joel Schumacher. As I pull his IMDb page up, Snake Sabers, welcome to the building, like I said before, but also thank you for the host. I really appreciate that. Now, one thing that I'm also kind of giddy about, I said that I was giddy about something, right? So, again, that's the first thing that I kind of wanted to get out of the way is, the passing of Joel Schumacher, rest in peace, and to also kind of look at the other stuff that he's made in his filmography. So let me type in here, Joel Schumacher. Here we go. Yeah, so he just died at the age of 80. He made 8mm. I think a lot of people like the 8mm. He did do Phantom of the Opera, and that was that was something. Oh, that's interesting. He directed 2 episodes of House of Cards. It's funny because now that I think about it, I think I do remember seeing his name in the credits a couple times. Oof, he did the number 23. Damn. Okay, Trespass. Yeah. So his most recent years, nothing too great. But then he did some movies that again were pretty decent back in the day. Falling Down. I actually like Falling Down quite a bit. I know it's a little bit on the unrealistic side, but there's something about it that I really do like. Falling Down with Michael Douglas is the movie where basically he just had such a bad day at work that something just snaps. And of course, there's other underlying things with this character played by Michael Douglas. But basically, his character, like, he's in the middle of the freeway, stuck in traffic on one of the hottest, if not the hottest day of the year. Things are just boiling. And then finally, it's funny, they don't make it all fancy. They don't dress it up in a very bombastic sort of way, but something snaps in his head. There's no flashy like camera cuts or anything like that. He just all of a sudden goes, and he gets out of his car and he leaves his car in the middle of the freeway. We're like, hey, you can't just leave your car like that. He walks out and he proceeds to just do whatever the fuck he wants to do for the rest of the day. As far as like things that have been cooking in his brain, he buys a gun. He doesn't go to work, obviously, like he was supposed to. He pulls out said gun. One of the most famous scenes in that movie that I absolutely adore is the scene where he goes to the fast food place and he wants breakfast, but they just stopped serving breakfast. And when I say just stop serving breakfast, we're literally talking a minute. He says the dude that says we stopped serving breakfast at 11:30, and it's like 11:31, 11:32. It's like, yeah, you don't already have, most restaurants at 11:32, I mean, if they have something like, if they still have like some patties or whatever or something like that, I'd be like, oh yeah, let's whip it together and I'll give it to you, whatever. It's not a big deal. But these people are just like, no, we stopped serving breakfast. And he's like, it's only been 2 minutes, and he pulls out the gun and scares the shit out of everybody. And then he proceeds to also throw a tantrum over the fact that the burger that he got looks nothing like the image. So it's it's a pretty good self commentary kind of thing. So I really like that. Really like that movie. Like I said, I know that it's unrealistic in some parts, but Joel Schumacher directed that. He also directed, like I said, The Lost Boys. Let me look at here. Yeah, Lost Boys. He directed the original Flatliners. I think recently they remade Flatliners with Ellen Page, but this is the original. He did a movie called A Time to Kill. No, A Time to Kill. Yeah, A Time to Kill, and that for 1996, starring Matthew McConaughey. That was a pretty decent legal thriller, crime thriller here. Yeah, about lawyers and stuff like that. Good ensemble cast too. So that was pretty good. So yeah, R.I.P. to Joel Schumacher. He definitely had an impact in film history, but sadly, it's marred by the disaster that was Batman for not Batman Forever, Batman Robin. But let's not forget that he's made good films in his career. So I think we should take into consideration that. Stick Sabers, what are you saying here? When I was little, I liked Batman and Robin. Now, not really. I like the action figures. I remember Taco Bell had a tie-in where they were throwing in action figures with with the not the kids meal, but it was like a certain combo pack they had to do. They Taco Bell didn't really have kids meals, but they had their equivalents, and they would throw in Batman Forever toys, and they were pretty decent. Especially when you take into consideration that every vehicle imaginable in those latter two Batman movies, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, were solely designed to sell figures. Have you ever thought about that? Like, if you go back and watch those movies, the Batmobiles and the Bat, cycles and the Robin cycle, or the Nightwing cycle, whatever the hell, everything was designed as if it was an action figure, not as a practical vehicle, not as a practical costume, etc., etc. It was never made like that. And now looking back at it, I'm like, yeah, I think this was all to sell, which I can't really blame them for. Is that G Fuel? Yes, it is. Well, not G Fuel, but Game Fuel. This is gonna cause some problems because there's two different types. This is Game Fuel by Mountain Dew, officially by Mountain Dew, not sponsored. I just like it. I picked it up the other day when I was at I think it was Winco with my girlfriend. We went to Winco. I saw it on the shelf, and I'm like, oh shoot, there's one more. And then there's G Fuel, which is the company that's sponsoring fucking everybody, every gamer out there that streams on both Twitch and YouTube. Angry Joe, PewDiePie. Speaking of Angry Joe, he's in the spotlight right now, but not exactly for the best reasons. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. I'll be monitoring that closely. Anyways, let's get back to the topic at hand, which is episode 9. Now, there's one little thing that I'm going to be doing here in this episode, aside from talking to to Snick Sabers here, is that I feel kind of like an idiot, but at the same time like a child who just got a brand new toy, because I just discovered studio mode here on my streaming software, Streamlabs OBS. And what this allows me to do is to pretty much do something that I've been wanting to do for the longest time, which is to be able to either edit or create a brand new scene for my stream, while at the same time you guys can still see this right here and it's not acting in real time, and then when I'm ready I can then make the transition. Very similar, and it's funny because I kind of have some experience with this sort of layout, because this is the type of layout, or this is the type of mechanic that we would do when I was in TV production class at my film school. Segue, because at the film school that I go to, has a television kind of division for things, whether it'd be writing for television, but the classes that I took in relation to television was more so on the technical side, as to shooting multi-camera shows or running some kind of news network or something like that, where at some point, everybody has to do this, you have to be the technical director, and the technical director is responsible for telling to either do it yourself or to tell the other person to switch from camera 1 to camera 2, or from camera 2 back to 1 to 3, switching it every 8 seconds to keep the flow and the momentum of the show running, while at the same time not staying stale and static. And I obviously did that a couple of times, and this is reminding me a lot like that, because there you got your live feed, and then you have this other camera that you're planning to cut to, but you're able to modify it before you actually do cut to it. And that's pretty much what studio mode on both OBS and Streamlabs OBS is able to let me do. Plus, this allows me to pretty much create a brand new scene. So let me do this. Film. I'm going to create a brand new scene. I'm going to call it Film School Presentation Mode, because I actually kind of want to utilize it. There we go. Awesome. This is pretty cool. So if you see me, kind of pulled over to the side here, and my attention's over here, don't get, trust me, I'm taking a look at the chat, but I'm going to be creating a scene because I kind of want to utilize it a little bit for today's episode, which is called what did I call it? I think I called it, draft 1, or the first draft. I call it the first draft. And it's funny because I call it the first draft because obviously that's the one thing that every writer has to go through when they want to bring that initial story to life. But I'm just using that as a little bit, as just a very quippy title, because this can also really apply to producers and directors. So I'm mainly gearing it towards the holy trinity of positions when it comes to the art of getting a film brought to life, which is producing, directing, and writing. Whether it be to create their idea, get the energy flowing, where do you go for motivation, where do you go to actually juice this thing up, provided by Game Fuel. No, I'm kidding. But I do need I worked a long shift today, so I do need this extra caffeine to get me rolling. So I am going to need that. Since I finished Final Fantasy VII Remake and SpongeBob, I went back to DBZ Kakarot. Have you not beaten that? Goddamn. Alright, so let me start by adding my... I want to add a backdrop, but I don't want the... I want like a very film... Well, I don't know. Let's start by adding my camera here. Here we go. Start by adding my camera, but then I'm going to make myself a little bit smaller. So keep talking to me, Snicks, and anybody that could be dropping on by while I create this scene, because I want to utilize it. Basically, this is actually somewhat interwoven with what I want to talk about, which is to bring new, fresh ideas to the table to keep yourself motivated. So let's use this stream, for example. As an example, because the past couple of episodes have been mainly just me sitting in front of the camera with this web layout, kind of talking to the camera and talking to whoever's watching this on playback, either on Twitch and YouTube, about the topic at hand. On this week, to keep things from becoming stale, just like you want to keep yourself from becoming stale, otherwise you're going to burn out on your project, whether you're the producer of it because you're making sure that everything goes according to plan, or you're the director of it to make sure that from a visual and subjective standpoint, everything is coming together so that it has a decent flow that everybody can understand. And then even worse of all, in my opinion, worse of all is the screenwriter, because this is the blueprint. This is the one thing that the producer and the director will routinely go back to even after they're done filming, to get that source material feed to make sure that whatever kind of interpretation they got from that script is ultimately what ends up being on screen when the final edit is locked down. And that's the screenplay, and that's very integral, but at the same time also somewhat intimidating when it comes to that. So let me make myself kind of tiny here on this new scene. And one of the things I'm doing to kind of motivate myself here to get the ball rolling here with this stream, with this series of episodes of this show that I got, is to now create a new scene where I'm gonna have myself in the corner, and then over on the top left, I'm going to pretty much mirror my computer so that I can either cut routinely to something on the browser or a slideshow presentation, because I want to start incorporating either PowerPoint presentations or Word documents into my streams. And this also, I guess you could say, could serve as a segue towards inspiration. What inspires you to kind of bring the ideas and get the creativity going? Because sometimes, this is going to sound like a very terrible and somewhat gross analogy, but often creativity is like a bowel movement. Even if you think that forcing it will get you going, it's not. You actually need to be able to relax and let it go through you and onto you. Wise words to live by. But yeah, let me go ahead and add my display capture here so that we can take a look. I'm gonna have to add a new one here. Alright, yeah, so let me do laptop. Add source. Can I see? I cannot see. Is it loading? I really hope it's loading. It's not showing me a feed. Let me borrow your TV. I need to watch movies. You mean this TV? As soon as I get that 65 Sony OLED 89G model, sure. Okay, you know what? It's not working. If anything, I'm probably going to have to create a window capture, not a laptop, not a display capture. I don't know why it's not letting me add source. Display 1. Why is it not letting me capture the display 1? I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with the graphics card. But to be honest, I don't really need it to be the full. In fact, I might prefer it just, to kind of keep certain private things private. Don't want you guys seeing my stash. Let's do window capture here. So we'll do brand new. Let's do Word. Because I do have my Word document open. Alright, perfect. Alright, so... Is it that one? It's not that one. Shit. Alright, so it's able to capture Chrome, but it's not able to capture Microsoft Word. So you need to let things come to you, is pretty much what I'm saying. Sometimes that you have to do with inspiration for ideas. Sometimes ideas, kind of pass you by in the sense that events happen to you. There's one particular film that I'm thinking about writing, and it's centered around. I don't want to disclose what the event is, just for the for sake of risk. What the hell? Why am I behind it? There we go. That was weird. Okay. For the sake of just, protecting my intellectual property, as they say, I don't really want to disclose the said event, but let's just say that it's around a commercial invention, if that makes any kind of sense. So basically, I'm writing a film right now. I'm creating the treatment for a film that's centered around a commercial event of the year. So it's an event that happens every year that is unmistakably made by companies so that you spend money. That's all I'm gonna say. So take your pick out of all the ones out of the year. It's one that was man-made, so it's not religiously based. It's not observant of it's not a national holiday. It's not to celebrate a specific thing. It's just to make money. Like literally, it's to make money. And I want to make a feature film, even if it's not a very lengthy feature film, centered around this event. But I want it to be kind of like a situational comedy. And one of the inspirations behind that were movies like The Hangover, Office Space, because it does kind of delve a little bit into that workplace sort of comedy. So Office Space or The Office, if we're pulling from TV shows. But also The Hangover, because one of the things that works for, situational comedies is the situation. Sometimes the funniest situations are the ones that are not trying to be funny. They're just funny because they happen, and they're just too crazy to really describe and put into words, or to try to put it into a story, while at the same time being grounded in a narratively cohesive way. And that's pretty much what I want my first feature film to be. And of course, one of the inspirations for that was the actual event, especially going into the profession of retail is definitely it's something that helped build that kind of experience, to know exactly where I can kind of stem from. And of course, articles coming out of Florida. So let me see. I'm trying to capture Microsoft Word, but it's not letting me. I wonder if it's that is so strange. I wonder if it has anything to do. Yeah, it's not here. I wonder, does anyone know why it doesn't let me want to capture Microsoft Word? 'Cause it just does not show up here. And then I try to do a display capture and it's not letting me. Video capture device, scene, color, media source, browser source, maybe? No, I don't want it to do that. Let's do a brand new one. Browse. No, that's not going to work. Let me delete that. I had no intentions of 100% SpongeBob until I saw how easy the trophies was, so I made the call. Are they really easy? God damn. Are they really that easy to get? You know, maybe I'll pick it up. No, but yeah, you saw my picture on Discord, Snakes. Yeah, that was a go back. You know, I'm pretty certain you know what a go back is. It's basically when someone wanted to buy something and then they changed their mind. It's like, all right, you got to go put it back in the shelf. Funny enough, we actually don't have a spot to put up that FUN edition of SpongeBob, so I had to take it back to the back warehouse. I'm like, there's no space for it. And quite honestly, putting it in the back pretty much means that it's not going to get purchased unless somebody looks for it online and it shows right there that we have it. Let me see what the problem is. It should be able to let me go into the NVIDIA control panel, making sure that the graphics card is being used here for Streamlabs OBS, because it should be able to let me capture the display, unless it has something to do with Word. Let me go in here. I'm starting to think it might have something to do with Word. Let me double check. Streamlabs OBS. There you are. So yeah, Streamlabs OBS is using the high performance NVIDIA processor. So we're good. I don't know. Let me close Word and see if it actually now displays the... Nope, still doesn't work. Let me try PowerPoint. It's a separate window. I don't know why you're having problems. Why you're not capturing the window. Like, what's the issue? Settings for window capture. Streamlabs OBS. PowerPoint. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, hey, there we go, there we go, there we go. All right, so, okay, I think I just had to, like, swap it in and out. Let me load up Word again. Shut up. Okay. Bring that up. Now it's working. All right. Yeah, there it is. All right. Cool. That's so weird. That is so weird. All right, let me make it smaller so you can see everything. Bam. I don't like that. For some strange reason, the aspect ratio of this is smaller than the actual, like... Okay, here we go. And now, technically, I can maybe delete that. Yeah. Alright, cool. So, here we go. Watch. Oh, actually, no, I have to add the chat. Make sure you can see the chat here. Can't get rid of the chat box. Can't get rid of the chat. There we go. Where should I put the chat? Put it at the corner. Make it a little smaller. Just a tiny bit. There we go. Oh, it's kind of out of the way. There we go. All right, perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and transition here, and bam, there we go. All right, so I have my Word document open here, and you see my camera down at the bottom, so that should be good. Lego games are also easy to 100% and getting the trophies. Okay, Lego games, easy maybe. Short, no. I think from what I've seen, Lego games take forever. Like, it's not difficult because they're Lego games, but they take forever. Because there's just so many, like, little things that you need. Like, little pieces. Like, collecting all those golden bricks and shit. I'm like, nah. That's too much. That is way too much for me. But here we go. Alright, so I got my Word document here. And this is pretty much a breakdown of all the episodes that I've been doing so far. You notice, you know, episodes 2 and 3 had bullet points. And this is where I was really getting going with starting up, because, you know, obviously I just started with episode 1, and then episode 2 and 3 is where I was like, you know, getting the motivation going, saying, okay, I'm going to start bullet pointing all of my the things that I kind of want to talk about, the topics. the examples that I want to use, make sure that everything's scripted and not just shot off the cuff like episode 1 was. Then I started to kind of trail off around 4, 5, and 6. You notice I wasn't really bullet pointing as much as I wanted to. Episode 7 took a pause because I decided to take episode 7 dedicated towards, you know, the issues that were happening in the country and how film can kind of relate to that. So last week was actually what episode 7 was about, never missing the previews and how it was to be kind of an auteur going into film school. Episode 8 is pretty much tonight's episode 9, except I didn't call it the cooking pot, I call it the first draft. But essentially our topics are the same thing. Starting a film script, whether it be as a writer, as a producer, as a director. Of course, you know, as a director, since I intend to direct that feature that I'm talking about, you know, where, and you know what, I gotta be honest, before I get fully immersed here, let me turn on my fan. I'm starting to get a little hot. Starting to get just a tiny bit hot. Okay, you know what, give me 1 second, let me turn on my fan, and, I'll be right back. Hold on. I almost have to, like, slide myself out here, because my leg is caught. There we go. Let me cut my fan on. Alright. Ooh. Oh, almost fell. Okay. Alright, back. Yeah, it's with all these lights right here, the heat is actually starting to mount up here, so there we go. Alrighty, so you see right here, we got starting a film script, ideas, energy, decisions, and resources. And commitment. Commitment, even I have to admit, is probably one of the bigger issues that I need to work on as far as that just being a director, writer, or filmmaker, period. Because I'm not going to say that I just abandoned ideas or I abandoned projects or things like that, but because the only real thing that I abandoned recently was something for school where I mentioned this, I think, in the last episode. Was it the last episode? But basically, it was the one where I had, oh, wow. Sorry, I just got a text that's pretty interesting. It's actually pretty good. I'm going to have to respond to that quickly. Oh, I left my phone in the other room. Damn it. I have to charge it. But basically, it was that last one. I remember. I'm pretty certain I told the story on the show where we had this proofreading of the script and it was in its final phases of getting written, one of the final drafts, and the teacher invited the acting class. They invited the acting class, and that acting teacher just pretty much said that I was being kind of exploitive and stuff like that, which I didn't really appreciate. But at the same time, it kind of gave me a moment of self-reflection, realizing that, yeah, my heart and soul really wasn't in the script. It was just me doing it for a much more vain intention, to, you know, try to get my name out there and to kind of show off how I can, you know, kind of direct and whatnot. And that's ultimately something, I hate to make it sound kind of pretentious, but that's something that is able, at least for me, generate almost automatic, authentic commitment and energy, is when you know that this film, you as a producer, you have to produce. Like, you can't think of anything else except this one thing. Or as a writer, you have to write it. Like this feature, this first feature, it's been in my head for years, and I have never been able to forget about it. And that mere fact alone is enough for me to inspire me to start up a treatment, which I've already done. So I'm already about halfway through the treatment. And once I finish the treatment, I'll hopefully start draft 1, just like this episode's called. So usually the best ideas are the ones that kind of stick around, no matter how much of a passage of time went, or how many times someone looked at you and said, I don't know if that could be made into a film, and somehow a voice in your head or a feeling in your gut just says, no, I still want to make it. That's how you know. And it tickled me pink when Martin Scorsese opened his masterclass with kind of a similar, I'm paraphrasing, but kind of a similar quote, saying something along the lines of, like, if you're interested in a career in filmmaking, then this is not the masterclass for you. Stop watching this. This is not for you. If you're interested in filmmaking, don't watch this. But if you wake up and you can't shake that feeling of that you need to make this one thing. Like I said, as a producer, you need to produce this one thing. If you're a writer, you need to write this thing, and you can't sleep. You don't feel comfortable with yourself unless you get this thing out there. Then I might be talking to you. That's what Martin Scorsese said at the beginning of his masterclass. And yeah, that was only a legend like him could definitely put it that way, where it's like, you know, if you're interested in filmmaking, who knows? I mean, it's kind of... I'm going to use another example to kind of tie it into retail here. Right now, we're on short supply at work for a lot of things. Gaming computers, webcams, microphones, printers. We're on short supply for a lot of things. When people come in and they don't buy it because we don't have it right there in store and are not willing to wait the week to get that thing, to get it delivered, because the option is still there to have it delivered. It's not like it's completely sold out and gone. No, you can still order it, and it could still be in your hands between 5 to 7 days. If you're not willing to put in that order, and you were only gonna get it if you walked out with it that day, unless we're like trying to meet a certain deadline, which most of the time they weren't, you didn't really want it. You didn't really want it, and if you had gotten it, you would have returned it a few days later. It weeds out those impulsive buyers. And that's pretty much, that could be tied into here, where like if there's that one film idea that you have to get going, then that's something that you genuinely want to make. It's not just some thing or some phase that you're interested in. And just talking about that or reciting it to yourself, just regurgitating it is enough to get you kind of motivated. Me right now, talking about it while doing this show is enough for me to go, you know what? I think maybe I should put the video games down for a little while and just get back to this treatment and finish it up so that I can maybe get something, a first draft rolling. Especially now that here in the summer, I'm not taking any classes this summer. I'm hoping to go back in the fall semester, which starts up in September. But of course, with COVID, who the hell knows? If anything, maybe I'll maneuver in a way where maybe I can take a class that is for sure necessary, like no more electives, like an actual legit class that I need, one of the production workshop classes, but one that I know I can get just as much of a benefit taking it online than at school. And plus, I get to save gas money. Game fuel done. I love these little things right here. The way this thing opens, it's genius. Whoever created this, actually, I gotta salute you. The way the G Fuel cans open up with that little piece of plastic where you slide it open, but then you can slide it back down if you want to conserve the carbonation. Dope. Can I tell you where I'm at in DBZ Kakarot? Okay. I'm pretty certain this Kakarot, the game, chronicles all four main sagas of Dragon Ball Z, right? You got the Saiyan saga, Raditz, Nappa, and then, of course, culminating in the arrival of Vegeta. You got Frieza saga, Cell saga, and the Majin Buu saga. If it takes place in those four sagas, then yeah, go ahead and tell me, because I've already watched the show. I already know what happens, so go ahead and tell me where you're at. I bet he saw the review from IGN. Oh, like the person who bought the FUN edition? Nah, I honestly think that they returned it because they probably bought it and then they found out that they needed the money for something else, and they were like, this thing is $300. I gotta bring it back. Cause it looked like it was just barely opened. It looks like it had the sticker kind of opened up, but only on one side, and it doesn't look like the box was fully open. Like they probably just took a peek inside and then closed it back up, and then they got buyer's remorse and brought it back. That's how it looked like. I was like, all right, yeah. I just finished including the Future Saga. I gotta be honest, I don't know what the Future Saga was. But you just finished the Frieza Saga, so you're about halfway through. You know what's funny? I told myself earlier today that right now I'm on track to hopefully beat Last of Us Part 2 in under 2 weeks, which is honestly for me kind of ahead of schedule, because I thought it was going to take me like 3 weeks to beat that thing, because I'm only going to be playing it when I'm streaming, and of course there's going to be days where I'm not streaming it, such as today, and then yesterday where I only played Mario Maker. So I'm like, okay, it's going to take a little longer, like 3 weeks. But now I'm hearing people, according to the amount of hours that they've taken, I'm like, I think maybe I can make this in 2 weeks. And if I do, I think I have some spare time before Ghost of Tsushima comes out to sneak in another game in there. But then I looked it up, and it shows that Kakarot takes Kakarot's even longer than Last of Us Part 2. I think it's like 30 to 35, maybe even 40 hours, because it's an RPG, not a fighting game. So I'm like, ugh. I think that's going to have to wait until after Ghost of Tsushima. I'll try playing some other stuff in between then. So, yeah, again, I know it sounds like a cop-out answer, but sometimes just talking about this stuff, gets me going as far as inspiration. But definitely commitment is something that even I have to kind of take a step back and really self-reflect towards myself to get those drafts going, because I do sometimes have a little bit of a procrastination issue with some of the things that I know are not tied to assignments or to a grade. And sometimes when they are tied to the grade, it's like a push-pull sort of thing that sometimes drives me kind of crazy, is the whole notion that, okay, pros, it's not tied to a grade, I don't risk failing anything. But cons, if you want to look at it from a metaphorical level, I'm ultimately failing myself, because if I keep procrastinating, this thing is never going to come to fruition, and I'm not going to have something ready for when me and the girlfriend finally do move out to LA. I have that one thing to kind of show for. So in a way, I have to work out a regimen, because I know that routine really works for me very well. I need to adapt. One thing that could work for a lot of people, and you know what, let me do this. So I don't even know why I'm still talking here, but let me open up a new document. So I'm using a little tool here, and hopefully next week I'll have a PowerPoint presentation. So I'll go ahead and I'll close the PowerPoint here, because I don't think I need it. Oh, what the hell? Oh, because the other one is still open. So if I close that one, does it show the new one? It does not. I think I might just have to Nope, it's gone. Hold on. Give me a second. There we go. There we go, blank document. Alright, so I'm borrowing an idea from a Twitch streamer. His name is Devin Nash. And he does something where he brings up a WordPad and he writes down notes of the things that he kind of talks about. And to be honest, I'm going to take this little mechanic that he uses, but not because it looks cool and it's a thing that I can be... I like the intention. First of all, I'm acknowledging it from him. I'm not saying that I created this idea. Devin Nash is the original creator of using the WordPad, or in my case, Microsoft Word, because I have a hookup with Microsoft Office to an extent. And by extent, I mean a time limit, a time window. And by time window, I mean probably in about 4 months it expires. But the reason I'm doing this is actually for my own self-benefit. And that is to get into some kind of routine thing. Because one thing that helps me learn and remember, and to kind of, like I said, get myself into a mindset, especially from a writer stance, is to write it down. So, starting the first draft. And let me get just a tiny flashy with it. Let me... Bam! Motherfucker. Bold space. Underline. Alright, there we go. Starting the... Wow. Idiot. The first draft. Alright, there we go. Starting the first draft. Okay, now the G Fuel is probably getting to me. That's probably why I'm being so loud. It's because now that I'm starting to get a little hyped. So let's just... No, let's go back down. Let's go back to... let's go to 20. I think we're good with 20. And let's get a little creative here with the... Let's go to typewriter. Let's go to that courier. Where's that courier? Hold on. Where's the courier? Let's make it legit. So yeah, Devin Nash has this thing where he pulls up a word pad and he writes down the notes that he's kind of tackling in his stream, not only for for his viewers, but also so that he can kind of organize his thoughts together in a cohesive manner, so that maybe by the end he can kind of read it back to you, and kind of cover as much ground as he possibly can. So I do just Comic Sans just to fuck with people. You know what? I actually like this one right here. Just make it a little smaller. There we go. I like that one. And then with this one, we'll do Courier Final Draft with a smaller font. Yeah, that's nice. Only this time, we'll do bold. We'll not do underline, and we'll just go just a tiny bit smaller. Okay, perfect. But yeah, he's a user named Devin Nash, and he makes up a WordPad, and he jots down his notes. So I'm using this, but not to rip up a gimmick. This is not going to be in every stream, obviously. Not to, like I said, get popular, call it my own. It's not. It's Devin Nash's. But the reason why I'm using this mechanic here is actually for my own self-help. Just so that I can feel motivated enough to kind of have some clear and concise goals, so that I have this document that maybe I'll use as my background on my desktop, on my computer, or on my tablet or whatever, so that whenever I open this thing up, I'll look at this and be like, all right, this is the thing that I need to do. This is what I need to focus on. This is what I need to get back to. So when I have that spare time, I can open up the draft, the treatment, and get to work. Use Comic Sans as font. I always use that in my writing. Snakes, I was making a joke. I have to tell a non-DBZ fan when they say the show's too long. Here's the Snicks, don't hate me, but I love Dragon Ball Z, and even I know that shit is padded as fuck. I'm sorry. I love Dragon Ball Z, and even I know that sometimes they pad those scenes up to a motherfucker. Like, there's some episodes I remember even when I was a kid, I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen? Next time on even as a kid, I'll be like, and I would, the only thing that would keep me from throwing a tantrum is that they would sometimes show. So it's almost like the network that I was watching this. It was an Hispanic network, Canal 5 from Mexico. It was almost like they were self-aware that that Dragon Ball Z was a little filler in some spots of the seasons. It's almost like someone over there knew, and they went ahead and they would actually show 2 episodes instead of just 1 every time. So there was at least a full hour of Dragon Ball Z every night. They would actually show 2 episodes, and that would keep me from totally losing my shit, because they knew that some episodes were it almost felt like they knew some episodes were fillers. So we're like, okay, we're gonna pair these episodes up. That way you don't have to wait until tomorrow. At the time, it was tomorrow, because by that point, the whole show, except for the Majin Buu saga, I think, was already out. So they were kind of able to kind of chew through some of these episodes. Anyways, all right, so starting the draft. What is something that definitely gets me to write that first draft and getting, ideas work? So, as I tackled at the very beginning, and let me, start bullet pointing here. Bam. Actually, can we change that? Yeah, I like the squares better. The squares feel legit. Squares feel pretty good. Kind of wish I could respond with my watch. Can I respond with my watch? You know what? I don't want to do that. Oh, I could. Yeah, I'll respond to it later. I want to respond to it now, but it's so inconvenient and weird to do it on my watch that I don't want to do it. All right, so starting the first draft. Don't force it. Wait, hold on. Let me be kind of comical about this. So, like a bowel movement, don't... What the fuck? Nope. Don't... Why am I locking up? Don't force it. Alright. Tip number 1. Like a bowel movement, don't force it. So, essentially, sometimes this is why I hate creative writing assignments back in the day in school, and even in film school right now. Even though in film school it's a little easier, because in elementary school often they would isolate you, like, okay guys, create a thing, and no talking, No talking. Like, how did that benefit anyone at all? Like, now looking back at it, it kind of pisses me off that was something that they were doing. Obviously, in film school, they encourage talking. In fact, some of the best teachers would turn the classroom into like a creative pool for people to just kind of pitch ideas to one another, because this is a room full of creatives. Who in the hell do you think you are to tell them all to not talk to each other? Like, the only exceptions to that would be in some of my screenwriting classes, where it was more because it was an exercise and not so much a demand or a requirement that you guys couldn't talk to one another, because you would be able to talk to each other. It's just that as an exercise, it would be like, okay, you guys got 10 minutes, write something, and then we're gonna pitch it to each other, and we're gonna like, it's gonna be like mad libbing or something like that, except from a screenwriting sort of perspective. That would be the only exception where they would tell us to not talk to each other, but only because it would have to benefit that exercise. Otherwise, you know, when you're by yourself and something is pressuring you to come up with an idea, like when you see in movies or TV shows, when the character happens to be a novelist or a screenwriter or whatever, they always go to that room and they're like, okay, think of an idea. All I need is an idea. Oh, is that like that? And no one ever looks happy creating that idea. The idea often just comes from something else, whether it be an event in your life, a family member who's got a funny quirk about them, and maybe that could be, and then you can use that to then stem off into something else and creating that character or whatever. Like, it's never okay. I guess that's bullet point number. Well, actually, you know what? That's not going to be bullet point number 2. I'm just going to put it in parentheses. No such thing as an original idea. Or remember, no such thing as an original idea. Wow, I cannot type today. The hell's wrong with me? Okay. Yeah, so that's still part number 1. There's no such thing as an original idea. I mean, maybe there was back in the silent days, but now everything is just, like I said, an amalgamation or a mix and mash of something else to create something that could be original, but it's up to you to make it feel original. Sometimes it doesn't have to be original, it just has to feel original enough to maybe fool you. I know it sounds manipulative, but ultimately that's what we're all kind of setting to do as producers, writers, and directors, is to fool the audience and manipulate them into thinking that they're watching something original. As long as they're happy with the end product and they had fun and they're going along with it and they think that it's a good quality thing that you put out there, it's gonna be fine. Audiences are gonna, even if they're completely self-aware and they acknowledge that, yeah, this is not an original thing. Like, I love Inception, but it's very easy to see the motivation for Nolan's script on that film from The Matrix and Dark City. Was it Dark City? I think it's a movie called Dark City. Movies like that, very easy to draw inspiration from those films and think, oh yeah, that's probably what he was thinking about when he wrote the film. But it's the way that it brings that Nolan-esque quality that makes it feel original. So when you're creating a short film idea or for an assignment at school, remember, there's no such thing as an original idea. It's always going to be borrowing from something. It's up to you to make it feel original, even when it's not. And let that idea most of the time come to you. Again, don't stress. I guess, we could kind of put this into the second bullet. Well, no, that's still part of the first one. Like about moving, don't force it. Let it come to you. Like I said, that commercial event, commercial holiday, that feature film that I have centered around the commercial holiday, that came to me. I never really, it didn't come to me while I was like brainstorming and locked myself in my own little corner of my mind because I needed to create something for that first feature film. It was just something that I was watching viral videos on YouTube, and then the news covered this commercial event that I thought, wouldn't it be nice if there was actually a movie with characters trying to achieve something during this particular night. And that's when I'm like, oh shit, that intrigues me. And as hard as I tried to forget about it, I could never forget about it. I was like, all right, that's something that I definitely need to write. Another one is centered around, video games. One of my biggest passions in life. So sometimes ideas don't have to. Oh, well, hold on. Let me go back up here. Movie ideas don't have to be about movies. So, often you don't have to think that you have to write a film about a screenwriter or something that feels cinematic. On cinematic subjects. So, I'll give you guys a freebie here, because I'm very, I don't want to say secretive, but I put my ideas, I keep my ideas close to my chest here, because you never know when someone's gonna rip something off. Disney. No kidding. Not really, but whatever. Who the fuck are you? When I was little, I would usually yell as long as I can so I could turn into a Super Saiyan. One of my favorite memes in the past couple of years. It's so stupid, but it's that kid who made that video for the internet where he's like, this is a Super Saiyan, above a Super Saiyan, and then they put the car driving by. I love it. Elementary school sucks. Middle school sucks. Oh, I really wish I can kind of be a fly in the wall for schools right now. I mean, not right now this second because we're in the middle of a pandemic, but in terms of like the current generation, what are they teaching now? Because it can't for sure be whatever it was that I was being taught. Which wasn't that much better to begin with, but god damn. We need I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. But movie ideas don't have to be about movies or uncinematic, it could be about uncinematic subjects. So what I would like to have be either my first feature film or my second feature film to kind of, like I said, branch out of, because that first one, I would like it for to be a situational comedy. The second one, I would like to be, I guess, to an extent, a situational drama, but it's centered around a subject that I love, which is video games. And one of the facets of video games that fascinates me the most is actually how these video games get made, because sometimes it's very easy to forget that when you're playing a video game, someone probably cried and had some kind of anxiety attack or panic attack to try to meet the deadline for the release of this game. Because just like when people put in a lot of hard work to finishing that novel, to finishing that film, or that piece of art, because as much as they love it, something is just pushing their physical being to get this thing going, that sometimes that physical being forgets how to, properly eat and sleep and all that stuff. Same thing with video games. And next to movies, video games is one of the biggest passions in my life. And I kind of would like to make a film centered around that subject. It's funny because originally I was thinking maybe a documentary, but they've actually already made a documentary that's kind of focused on this called Indie. I think it's called Indie Game the Movie. I actually did watch it. It's a very short movie. I think it's like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that. But it centers around 3 developers. One of them is the notorious Phil Fish, who made Fez. And then the other 2, I can't remember their names, and I feel terrible for saying that. But one of them was the developer behind The Witness, and then for a game called The Witness. And then the other was actually around the developers, not just one. I think it's like 1 or 2, maybe 3 that developed Super Meat Boy. And then, like I said, the third one was Phil Fish, who developed Fez. And how their different personalities were just juxtapositions to the other as far as their approach to making a video game. And now I'm thinking a social network kind of film, but instead of making a website, they're trying to make a video game. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to make a film about that. So there you have it. You have a subject that's not around films. It's a completely different medium, but then can kind of transcend over that other medium by being made into a movie. Because, we often complain how there's very little video game movies out there, but movies about video games are, there's endless possibilities. And I feel like that could be one of them. So always, if you ever want to make that short film, it doesn't even have to be that feature film. But if you want to make that feature script or that short film script centered around something that is that other branch of artistic medium. Like I said, music, painting, or whatever. You can always use other mediums to tell about that. Just like people can paint a canvas of a filmmaker or someone being on set, with the moody lighting and all that stuff. It could all transcend. There's no one telling you can't do that. And I think that using the camera to record someone, like I said, painting a canvas or mixing their first single or something like that, documenting it, or what the struggles. I would love for someone to make a short film as to what it is to be a songwriter, and how sometimes you can kind of stress yourself out to no extent, making sure that these lyrics all kind of click with one another. That could be great. So think about that. Now, as far as what going back to my shit, you know what? Oh, I minimized it. Let me see if I could open it up on the side, but you guys don't have to look at it. All right, perfect. So the first draft one is still up there, and then on the side I can look at this one. So, I'm talking about ideas. I already talked about resources and commitment. Where the resources for some of those ideas kind of come to you. There's no clear formula or no direct mathematic to say this is where you go to get an idea. No. Just like I said, don't stress it. Don't force it. Just like you wouldn't force anything on set with either people or equipment, you wouldn't force ideas either. You need to have them kind of infect you. Just like a virus. Just like Leo DiCaprio said in Inception. An idea. It's parasitic. It's resilient. And it's true. Obviously I've already kind of touched base a little bit on the commitment issues that I have with my scripts and my projects and things like that I definitely need to kind of work at. And one of the, like I said, the methodologies that I use is writing it down. So that's actually where we're going to go down to. I'm trying to see how I can word this, but no room in brain, make room on page. So, or let me go back. Write it down. There we go. Write it down. So, if nothing else works, just write it down. Often, I remember in some of my screenwriting classes, me and even a couple of other teachers would use this expression, as gross as it sounds, vomit onto the page. In the sense that even if it doesn't make any sense, putting pen to paper, sometimes, and like I said, it could work for different people. Sometimes, people don't like this, but I know that I personally do. I love writing stuff down, whether it be physically, pencil to paper, pen to paper, you name it, especially when you got those really fancy pens that have the ballpoint and the ink kind of like, I don't know. I love it. It's, it's written ASMR, if that even makes any kind of sense. But writing it down, pen to paper, or typing it down, as I'm doing right here with this document. This is essentially something that really helps get the creative juices flowing to get things memorized. If, like I said, certain ideas. So if you have some kind of journal, some kind of thing, some kind of PDF, or like I said, Word file to always kind of go back to and be like, oh, I just thought of that idea, write it down. It never hurts to write it down. It's not a weakness. It doesn't show that you're feeble or whatever, or your mind is not, strong enough to retain this idea. Sometimes I do often say that some of the best ideas are the ones that you don't forget. But, everybody's different. Who am I to judge on how everybody else's brain works? So, yeah, for me, I know that the best ideas are the ones that stayed in my brain, such as that first feature film, such as the video game related one, and then, of course, that trilogy that I would love to make with that $1 trillion company. All the other ones are and of course the book that I want to adapt, the book that I showed you guys in the last episode. So there's already 4, or I guess officially 6 films right there that are in the cooking pot up here. Original title of the episode. if nothing else works, or if you're coming up with ideas for short films because they are tied to that assignment and you didn't have anything down right here, like I said, vomiting it onto the page sometimes is enough. Because even, like I said, if it doesn't make any sense, if it's a terrible idea, trust me, another thing you're going to hear an awful lot from teachers, mainly from the directors and the writers. I don't know if you're really going to hear it from too many producing teachers or any other department. Maybe a little bit from cinematographers and sound designers, but more so from writers and directors. And out of those two, I will even put writers at the very top, saying that sometimes just writing it, even if it's a terrible idea, and sometimes they'll make assignments or brainstorming exercises where they're going to be like, okay, bad idea, go. Or bad idea, tell me what your bad idea is. Give me your bad idea. Give me your bad idea. Just, it's terrible, whatever, but just give it to me. Because off of that one bad idea, crack it open, boom, you have a good idea. Because guess what? You have, hopefully if you're in a lucky enough class, that teacher's going to help you out to take that terrible idea and then ground it down. Or you're going to have colleagues and peers and friends in the class that are going to take your idea and be like, what if? And that's going to be your best friend, that phrase. That phrase. Let me write it down. Nope, wrong one. Wrong word. There you go. And let me capitalize this one. What if? And then let me use the symbol and. Because I'm going to write, and then are your best friends. The phrases what if and then are your best friends when creating ideas. Because all of those are branches. All of those are going to be the ones where even if you started off with that bad idea, with that terrible idea, every time you add a layer of what if or and then, it's transforming. It's transforming. It's metastasizing. If that's the word. Metastasis, metamorphosizing. That's what I meant to say. Into something that could be potentially great. And once you have it locked down, once you feel confident enough to look at that idea and go, you know what? Let's start writing it. Then you go to town. And even then, it could still change. Even once it's in full screenplay mode, as long as it's not your final draft, you can still change it. You can still maneuver it. Things can still go crazy. And Six Sabers, to answer your question, how's your day? Pretty okay. Work was alright. Start off good, and then of course that last hour is always. So far every day the last hour has been a pain. And supposedly management is actually acknowledging this, and they're like, yeah, something's up. We have to fix something. So hopefully we'll get that cleared out. Hopefully by next week. Because yeah, almost every day that I've worked this week, that last hour is just a killer. And it so far it does seem like they're noticing, so hopefully some action is taking place. Like I said, the whole day is okay, and then it's that last hour that I'm like, oh my god, why am I here? So those phrases are definitely going to become your best friend, whether it be creating that feature, if you're in a writing emphasis, or if you're in a thesis class where you're creating a short film that you're going to put into pre-production, regular production, and then or standard or just production, and then post. And then and what ifs are going to be your best friends of creating that stuff. And this gets again, this creates inspiration because then nothing gets creativity going like those phrases when it comes to filmmaking, just any part of filmmaking. Especially when you're in the room, especially when you're in the room with other filmmakers that are in your field as writer, director, producer. You vibe off each other, just like when you go to work. If your coworker's in a good mood and you start building that water cooler kind of conversation. Right now, The Last of Us Part 2 is actually a good stepping stone for me to have great water cooler conversations with some of my coworkers. Now, of course, we can't get far enough because of spoilers, but it's enough for us to, talk about something else that's not just work related. It's not always down, even, which is ironic because Last of Us Part 2 is pretty depressing so far. But it gets that creative conversation going. And film school is absolutely no different because you're still going to be relying on these relations to, again, build those relationships, but also just, flourish the product a lot better. True collaborators are always looking out for the product. They're not looking for themselves. They're not stroking their own ego. I know I never look out for my own ego. I always make fun of it. I always make fun of myself. I'm always very self-deprecating. And, that relaxes the atmosphere and lets the floodgates in for creativity. And that's often what I do whenever we have table reads. Hopefully, if something comes to mind when we finish a table read off of other people's short films, I always try to sneak in some kind of quip of poking fun at the script, but not in a serious way. Like, I'll make fun of this one thing, but in a very over the top way that they know that I'm joking. Like, I'm not actually saying, "Oh, this thing sucked." No, it's like, "Oh, no, I'm joking." And then we come back to the creative criticism, both in the positive and what could be worked on, etc., etc. Technically, that could be part of another subject for another episode, but, talking about these things and kind of reviewing them. So the way that I would review movies back in the day on YouTube and review video games, that's how I would review people's scripts in class. And frankly, I wouldn't be the only one. There'll be several different people who would also talk the same way. So that always served as motivation for creative thinking, getting the energy rolling. Of course, caffeine is never the enemy. So often I would either find myself or other coworkers with giant ass, not grande, venti, or even Trenti-sized Starbucks drinks. Because caffeine is our best friend. And I refuse to believe anybody else that's going to tell me otherwise. So, you know what? Fuck it. Let's put it out there. Wait, no. That's... Caffeine is your best friend. Unless you have some pre-existing conditions. Yeah. Or I should probably put that in parentheses just to fuck with people. Friend, unless you have pre-existing conditions. But it really is because this one is mostly on the optional side. In fact, let's do that. We're gonna write that in red. The red ones are gonna be the optional ones. So that's gonna be caffeine is your best friend. If you really do feel like your attention could be kept consistent with caffeine, then do it. As long as you're not damaging your health. But always look out for health. Healthy body, healthy mind, healthy film. So, going back to one of my other passions here, which is video games. We've all been hearing the conversation recently about crunch in the workplace with developing games, and how when they crunch, yeah, you get the film out. I mean, you get the game out sooner, but at the risk of making people mentally and physically sick because they're living at the office, they're not eating properly. I remember the story that made everybody sad, which is that Sakurai, the director and the creator of Smash Brothers, had to, at one point, he was in developing the game and he was at his office for so long that he was sick. He got sick somehow. And instead of going home to rest, he would just stick an IV into his vein and stay at his desk and keep programming and coding and all that stuff. And everyone was like, dude, what the fuck? Don't do this. Same thing with film. If you need rest, go to rest. Don't feel like you need to glue yourself to the keyboard, because if you don't write this one thing now, it's going to slip away. Don't do it. Snakes, I didn't say IB, IV. IV. Letter I, letter V. It's the thing you put here in your arm. And then you have like the bag, the serum to make sure that you're getting all your nutrients and stuff. He put that into himself to keep himself going and healing, even though he instead of actually going home and resting and, you know, drinking fluids and chicken soup or whatever, Sakurai, so I'm assuming it's pho, or, you know, ramen. That was terrible. I apologize. But only because I generally want to go. Japan is actually on my bucket list of places to go, and I actually want to try the authentic ramen in Japan with me and my girlfriend. Because I've seen some videos and some photos where I'm like, you know, I'm not gonna lie, that looks pretty bomb. You know, I'm making fun, but that looks pretty bomb. Because over there they know how to make it. It's genuine ramen, not the prepackaged stuff. Even though they have that too, but you know, they put in the egg for flavor and they chop it up. They put the seasoning. They, you know, they put the egg in for the flavor. They fry it up, and I'm like, that's looking kind of good. That's looking kind of good. And that's me saying that right now after having dinner, and I'm still saying that's looking pretty good. But you know, filmmaking is absolutely no exception. You know, do not stay up all night because you have that assignment due. Definitely talk to your teacher firsthand at the very onset of like, oh, I need sleep, because even though I just said caffeine is your best friend, you know what? I think we need to swap the color palette. Let's make that bottom one about staying healthy red, because the red is usually the more you know, intensive one. We'll make this one blue. There we go. Blue is optional. Red is actually definitely look out for number one, which is look out for health, healthy body. Get them the right amount of sleep. Get the right amount of food. You know, you never miss out meals because you need to be on set. This one thing. In fact, food goes such a long way when it comes to the filmmaking process. It's the reason for why catering is so important when you're on set. If you go a long amount of time and your actors are giving you get your all on screen, that depletes you physically, and eventually those stomachs are going to start rumbling. You need food. Otherwise, you're going to end up with shitty performances and with actors that are never going to want to work with you on set because of that catering. It sounds weird, but... Oh, I just minimized it. My bad. There we go. It sounds weird, but yeah, you know, food. Food. Why not green? I don't know. I got to be honest. Between red, blue, and green, green is the least favorite color out amongst those three. The main three core colors for some reason. There you go. If it's school day, I never eat breakfast. Snicks, I'm sorry, but no. Try to wake up earlier, something like that. Some kind of instant breakfast. When I would have to go to when I would have to work at a location that's about an hour from here, because of the drive, I understood that time was, you know, of the essence. So I would buy a pack of 12 croissant breakfast sandwiches that were prepackaged, you know, frozen. And I would stick them in the microwave and heat them up and eat them on my way to work because I need breakfast. I cannot operate properly without breakfast whatsoever. I need breakfast. If I need to go to school, work, or if it's my day off, breakfast. Well, of course, day off, you obviously have the time to make yourself breakfast. But the days, even if I have to get going and stuff like that, I try to time it out as best I could. And if I know I don't have time to make something here at home, we have these things called phones now, where you can order ahead with the app. I never, you know, as much of a commercial as it sounds, download the app for that fast food place that offers breakfast. Wendy's, Jack in the Box, McDonald's, Starbucks. Starbucks has actually some pretty good breakfasts. Get the app, preload it with some money, buy yourself something on the way. Could take you about 5 minutes, unless they mess up your order. You know, have a contingency plan, but get yourself breakfast. But lunch is what I need on school days. Yeah, but science has proven that breakfast is more important than lunch. I honestly think I can operate without lunch. I think breakfast I need for sure, 100%. I can skip out lunch if need be and hold off until dinner. As long as I'm drinking a good amount of water to make sure that acid's not building up in my stomach too much, I can skip out lunch and go to dinner. So these things go a long way to making sure that, you know, your creative juices are flowing because, you know, have you ever heard people saying that I'm drained, I can't operate, I can't work? The mind is no different. So I'm making sure that those things get, made very well. That's how you do it. So let's see. Those are very definite things, and we gotta switch over back here to black. Let's switch back to black. Shit. Back to black. Oh, come on. Why is this? There we go. Okay, cool. All right, so next bullet points. I obviously talked about writing. So when getting that energy kind of going, go to your happy place. Where do you do the most thinking? So, as ironic as it sounds, think. Even if you're not in that place right now, think about where you do the most thinking. Where do random thoughts come to you the most? My personal theory, and I don't know if you can still see it. Oh yeah, you can still kind of see it. Well, let me scroll it a little bit there because the webcam's kind of cutting it. Well, people is not the same as anyone. Yeah, that's the thing. It's not everyone's different. My recommendation is that you get breakfast and snacks, but I know that everybody's different. And I'm one of those people that do better without breakfast if it's school day. That's weird. Yeah, like I said, it's so weird to me, but if it works for you, okay. Science is not real, it's a myth. Oh my god, snakes. Let me actually make the chat just a little bit bigger here. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Cool. So go to your happy place. That's the quote, at least. Where do you do your most thinking, and where do random thoughts come to you the most? If chances are, wherever you find yourself at, day to day, or most often in the week at least, that random thoughts come to you where you're like, I never thought of blah blah blah, or what would be crazy, blah 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 blah. That, as a writer, and possibly even a director, because a director can still make a pitch for an idea, Nothing ever stops a director from wanting to make a pitch. Or producer, writer, director, if you're aiming for those professions, wherever it is that you come up with those thoughts, that's probably where you're going to be able to create the most, ideas for film. Or if you already created the idea, that's where maybe you can get out of your rut. To go on to the next scene, to go on to the next plot point, to develop the next character. In the sense that, for example, for me, I'll use myself for example, as I always do. The two parts of my life where I do the most thinking, and where I've legit had some of my movie ideas come to me, or if I already had the movie idea and I was trying to get out of writer's block, or just create some kind of, or taking the film side of it out of the equation. If I'm just creating this one thing for school, whether it be a project or an assignment or whatever, two places that ideas come to me the most: the shower, and when I'm driving, and when I'm going on long trips driving by myself, preferably. Sorry, baby, no offense to my girlfriend, but often I do my best thinking when I'm driving by myself. And, appropriately enough, some of that driving would be to and from school. Because my film school is about an hour and a half from here. So it'll be an hour and a half to an hour and a half back. And sometimes I would utilize that time, even if I have a podcast playing or music playing or whatever, I would have my occasional moments where I would zone out, and somehow, some way, again, like a parasite, like a virus, that thought of that film, that short film, that feature, that project, whatever it is, or even something that I need to get edited or done later in the evening, would come to me and be like, it would be interesting if I could edit this thing to make it look like this, blah, blah, blah. And that's where I finally had it down to a science for me. Again, it could be different for other people, but for me, it would be um, it would be that during these trips is where I would get the most thinking, and then sometimes in the shower. Yes, this comes at the expense of running up the water bill, but once I've properly soaped up and shampooed, I would sometimes sit in the shower, kind of marinate and meditate in the steam of the hot water, and sometimes that would clear my head enough with the vapor or whatever, enough to get something just worked up in here, because for some reason in the shower, I separate myself away from digital devices. I'm away from my computer, away from my gaming, away from all this stuff. And I guess this kind of approach to the shower and to the driving could also be looked at certain spaces that you can kind of look at for yourself. So I heard some people say, especially streamers or content creators on YouTube, have thought of them, have always thought of how going to a separate office gets the creative energy going, where their office for editing and streaming is even off location from where they live. Like, they have to drive someplace to make videos. And that's because that not only can they sustain it financially, but also because creatively they just feel better doing that. For me, that is, again, the driving and the shower. It's in those two areas of my life, that in my day-to-day life, that I would get the most thinking done. Whether it be to create that, like I said, that script, to create that treatment, that pitch, or get that assignment done or that project done, at least from a mindset. And then all I have to do is just put it down on paper, put it down on a document, and the rest goes from there. Lie after you're done eating, then jumping into a pool, then you get cramps. That's also a myth. Okay, that one, yeah, I'll admit that I don't think I've ever gotten a cramp from that. Yeah, I don't think I've ever gotten a cramp from that one. Then again, I don't think I've ever tested it at the same time. I think I would always just play it safe. Hey, can you blame me? Okay, so this episode is officially probably the longest one I've done, or it's about to be. And I think it all stemmed from this presentation here about, making it all with the WordPad. I guess it definitely worked, because I brought so much material here to this episode. That's kind of crazy. I wasn't, I didn't think that I was going to be able to go this far along with it, but I did. So I want to close it out with one other one, and I have the name for it, but I can't remember what I was going to talk about with it. Let me try to think here. Ironically, I now have to force myself to think here. I guess the title for it, and maybe as I write it down it'll come to me, is actually the motto for the Assassin's Creed games. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted. And I'm closing out with that bullet point when it comes to, like I said, energy, getting the energy going, getting the creativity going. I end with that because, I want it to be known, I want it to be clear that just because I wrote it down in this document and I preached about it on this episode doesn't mean that it's guaranteed. And actually, let me make this smaller. I feel like I need it. There we go. There we go. That's much better. Now you can actually read the entirety of it. There we go. Perfect. Basically, I just want to drive the point across to home that just because I put it down on this Word document and I preached about it very endlessly on this episode doesn't mean that it's guaranteed success for creativity and a work ethic for anybody that's planning on going to film school and all that stuff. Like I said, everybody's different. Just like the coronavirus affects everybody differently, so can these methodologies. This is just something that can be used as maybe as a rubric or as a stepping stone for getting that energy going, so that if you ever find yourself stuck in a rut, feel free to, sometimes filmmaking is all about establishing rules and then possibly even breaking them, leading to then brand new rules that then people will create about you. So feel free to break some of the stuff that I wrote down on this WordPad here, on this Word document, because it's not gospel. It's just something to help me generate a workflow for this episode that then ended up being about generating workflow for your film ideas as producers, as writers, as directors, as the principal pillars of the filmmaking process of getting, from script to screen. This is something that's going to be regurgitated from several different teachers across the board. I had a lot of teachers tell me all of these different things, and now I'm just kind of putting them in Twitch format, so to speak. Okay? Alright, guys. That does it for me. This is probably the longest episode that I've done, and it's all because of this format with the template, with the Word document. But to be honest, it worked. And I think I'm going to be bringing it back in future episodes. Now, right now, because I want to start dedicating just a little bit more time to my own treatments of ideas that I have going, because I want to start researching into features that I want to write, getting more masterclasses watching more movies myself, watching more television myself. In fact, today I had a pickup. I actually made a pickup today. And for this, we're gonna go ahead and start transitioning back to our original template here, which is going to be the there we go, this one right here. Bam. To bring up the bigger webcam look. I actually picked up something today at Best Buy because we have actually a really, really, really good deal on it right now. I'm not pimping it out. I'm just saying that kind of grabbed a steal for it. The Sopranos on Blu-ray complete series. This is the entire show on Blu-ray. Normal price for this is around $230. I got it for $80. From $230, I got it for $80. And if you've been living under a rock, The Sopranos is often hailed as one of the best television shows of all time. Apart from the debatable ending, everybody has mixed opinions or mostly negative opinions on that ending. And it's funny because even I know what the ending is. Like, the ending was so notorious that even I know about it. It's kind of up there with the endings of Dexter and Game of Thrones, where a lot of people did not like them so much that it was kind of tough to avoid spoilers, so that was a bummer. What the fuck is Sopranos? So Sopranos, the elevator pitch for this show is basically, think of, your traditional Martin Scorsese film about gangsters or Coppola's early work on The Godfather, but it's a TV show, basically. Where, the tagline says family redefined. It's all about, mafia family. And them trying to keep themselves quiet and things going wrong and trying to rectify them, etc., etc. That's pretty much what this is. I'm trying to remember. I think it was 6 or 7 seasons, and it's all right here in one Blu-ray set of the entire show that I can now watch at my leisure. And like I said, the standard price was like $230. I got it for $80. $80. And this is something that I'm labeling as required viewing for myself because, again, I heard that this is one of the best shows of all time. And I got the entire series now, so I can now, watch it and know exactly what people were talking about when it was in its prime. And I can also study it. Because never think that you need to feel yourself like you have to be locked down to just one form of medium. Because right now, I have ideas for feature films, but who's to say that maybe later down the line I would like to tackle TV? Because TV, it's in its best stage that's ever been, and I think it's something that could be done with that. And I think that The Sopranos could definitely help out with inspiration for films or stuff like that. So one of the things to never shy away from is just watch as many great films as possible. Even watch some of the bad ones just to know what not to do. And keep the juices flowing. My voice is going out. I'm tired of talking. I've been talking all day at work. Talked an awful lot on this week's episode of Film Student School. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're watching this on playback on both Twitch and or YouTube, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Snicks, for coming through, punching in those social media platforms, and being part of the stream. If you guys want to catch more, you want to catch the Film Student School. Yeah, I'm tripping over my words. I'm tripping out the outro. Oh my god. Game Fuel is crashing on me. If you guys want to catch some of these episodes live, as well as many more gaming streams live, head on over to the Twitch channel where you'll be able to catch some of these right when they go live. Twitch.tv/DarkSpiderDavid if you're watching this on YouTube. Otherwise, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Links are going to be in the description of the video below or in the bio page, whether it be on YouTube or Twitch. You can catch my social media links there. Otherwise, that does it for me. Just letting you know, it's quite possible that next week's episode 10, is going to be the season finale of Film Student School. Because as I was saying before I went on a tangent with how good of a deal I got with The Sopranos, I want to start focusing on watching more television, watching more film, and hopefully getting more stuff done with my treatments and my film ideas, and actually start making drafts on my computer so that I can kind of get that creative juices flowing. Now that, like I said, I'm taking time off school for the summer and I'm just working, I might as well utilize some of that time that I would put towards school to now this. So whenever I be working on assignments and tuning into the Zoom meeting classes, I got to start devoting some of that time to actually writing something. Because it's time to end the procrastination. I told you that I had to work on my commitment, and it's time to get that going, which is why I'm 90% leaning on next week's episode of Film Student School to be the season finale. I'm not calling it a series finale, I'm calling it the season finale, because I'm thinking about bringing it back eventually, but taking a break from Film Student School for the time being. I'll keep you guys updated, but for now, that is the game plan. I'll try to see what kind of cool topic I can create for my season finale for next week's episode. Otherwise, stay tuned for more video gaming streams. In the meanwhile, Last of Us Part 2, continuing with that game tomorrow around noon, around 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 o'clock Eastern Time. I'll see you guys then. Otherwise, take care, have a good night, and see you all next time. Peace.